God, I hope this is working. Okay. LOL. Hi guys. Oh, I'm so excited. So this is the first time that I'm going live from Spain and on this Wi-Fi that hasn't been treating me the most well. So hopefully this is live. Oh, thank you for joining. Okay, people are joining. I'm live. That is amazing. I am so grateful to be here. I am coming from a point of survival, honestly, because I'm sitting here like, I have just been so immersed in this like Mercury Retrograde shadow period. Hi, my queens. Thank you for joining. I miss you. Oh my God, I want to scream. This shadow period has been so loud and so pronounced that I was like, girl, let me go ahead and talk about what like this upcoming Mercury Retrograde season is going to feel a little bit like. Even though we've gotten a little bit of a preview for it, but I do want to say that this shadow period was sort of a little bit, I was talking to my friend Lori earlier today about this. It kind of like brought to the surface what we are going to be looking at this season. So I don't know if this season is going to be as tough on us, but this shadow period that I know you guys have been feeling, because honey, these past 2 weeks have been a lot of life being lived, a lot of truths being revealed, a lot of stresses. So I think we've kind of been brought to the surface what it is that we need to review and edit and recycle and reconcile with. And over this past season, sort of like that action is meant to be taken. So with that being said, I kind of looked at like 5 major things that I think can sort of like highlight what we're going to experience over this Mercury retrograde in Libra, just to know what to look out for and to know what you'll experience. So the first one that I wanted to talk about is choosing your stresses, which is what I uploaded the journaling prompt to be about. And what I wrote is really survey what's been causing you stress and categorize what you can control, how you can control it, and what you can release. And the reason why is because with any retrograde especially, we really want to take that time to redo, revisit, realize, reassess, reconsider, really look at like, hey, where am I in life right now? What am I doing with my time, with my energy? What do my relationships look like? What does like, what do I consider work and hobbies? What does that look like? And really from that dissect, now what the fuck from these places is stressing me out, right? And like that is going to show up in 100 million ways. People can stress you out. Work can stress you out. And so, hi, my queen. I'm so happy to see your name. So once we take the time to review and re-edit and figure out like what is stressing me out, we can really finalize it down to figure out what of these stressors can I actually control. And from the ones that I can control, what plan can I make to control it? Because Mercury retrogrades are excellent for planning. Execution is always something maybe to wait on, which this retrograde will be until October 18th. So execution, maybe we want to pump the brakes on a little bit, but plan, okay, this is really stressing me out. Here's a plan that I can execute eventually to sort of alleviate that stress. And everything else that is stressing you that you cannot control, really bringing back the power in knowing that you can choose what you stress out about. You can choose what is actually weighing heavily on you, right? Because I think that stress can become so accumulated and it can become something that is sourced from so many different outputs that until we realize like, hey, I can simply choose to no longer worry about this because this is outside of my control or outside my spectrum of control, and then come back to like, what can I control about it? And what plan can I execute or boundaries I can put in place to do that? It's going to be a really beautiful way to like utilize this mercurial energy to come back to our power. Because the thing is, not only do we have obviously Mercury going in retrograde, but we have a ton of planets. We have Jupiter going direct. I believe we have, it's either Saturn or we have another planet going direct. So like we have a lot of support for really utilizing this time to heal. But there's going to be some action that we need to take as far as like, let's look at what we're letting us be drowned by and what we can actually release. So choose your stresses and heal conflicts. Oh my gosh. It's funny because typically, I'm glad that it's resonating. Iconic. We love that. So the thing is, typically whenever we have Mercury retrogrades, we're like, maybe don't have those special conversations right now because miscommunication is a thing. However, because this Mercury is going retrograde in the sign of Libra, which is all about justice, which is all about conflict and resolution, honestly, it's going to be a little bit outside of our control. There's going to be some conversations that you're like avoiding having that are just going to kind of like naturally come up, which is in the highest keys already happening for me and I'm overwhelmed by it. But in a way that you cannot really control, these conversations are going to be they're going to surface. And it's important to really utilize this time to look at the situations, these conflicts in your life through the lens of fairness, through justice, Not through the lens of selflessness to the point where you are sacrificing your own needs and tearing down your own boundaries. Yeah, gearing up for those, same. Ooh. But selflessness to the point where you are allowing yourself to consider the other party's perspective, the other party's emotions, just as like us human beings should. By the way, I also want to say it's nighttime here, so that's why I have a light on. I'm not just like a ring light thought. Anyway, so definitely let yourself look through the lens of fairness when it comes to the situations and the conversations that are inevitably going to come up, and know that they're coming up for the pure source of healing. It's not about winning an argument, but rather allowing an argument to be laid to rest, and realizing in what ways through different conversations and different conflicts in your life are you acting through the lens of selfishness or ego or just being self-serving. My time limit went on because that's something I never even actually, maybe during this retrograde I'll really like allow myself to be on social media less. Anyway, so yes, first is choose your stresses, allow yourself to dissect what you can actually, or what you should be stressing out about and what you can release control over. Heal the conflicts, heal the resolutions that are inevitably going to come up. Inevitably, I've not been saying that word to its fullest. And of course, oh, thank you, honey bun. I don't know what color this is. I don't know if it's blue or green, but we love her. The next step would be to revisit and review your relationships. I mean, this one's obvious, but it's worth noting because we do have this retrograde, like I said, in the sign of Libra, which is also going to rule that justice, right? So that's why we want to have like those arguments, but inevitably resolution. But whether the relationship is platonic, romantic, familial, relationship review is like the loud, I don't want a girl, neither do I. And I'm the main one right now who is acting against the own advice I'm going to give right now. And that really is something. It really is something. I'm doing everything incorrectly, but it's fine. It is what it is. I'll learn through it. But like, it's going to come up right now, especially when it comes to when we're talking about those stressors. It's going to be really, really obvious which relationships are not actually serving anything and are actually draining you. And it's going to be a really important time, and we'll get to honesty, but with like Venus still being in Scorpio, honesty is really going to be loud and important. And so we're going to have to be honest with ourselves when it comes to those specific relationships that we build attachment to, or relationships that we feel like we sort of owe loyalty to. And that can come in the form of familial relationships, long-lasting friendships, or even, like romantic relationships ended perhaps poorly and you feel like I owe them some sort of like sacrifice. That already started for me. Same. Yeah. Like I said, that shadow period was probably the strongest Mercury shadow period I've ever experienced, which is why I'm like, oh, this season is no motherfucking joke. So let's just hold hands through it. I'm in this in ways I cannot explain. So really review and revisit and readjust what those relationships look like for you and what they're doing for you and how they're draining you. And be okay with cutting off ties that are really uncomfortable for you to cut off. And that means having to disappoint people, having to break social norms, especially when it comes to like tight-knit families, Latin or Caribbean families. I know that there's like this idea that kind of like we stick together through everything, but like, no, sometimes when it's at the expense of like my mental, or emotional health, letting it go, but really reviewing, re-editing and revising your relationships. It's all about healing too. And I think the most important relationship to reflect on right now is a relationship that you have with yourself. And if there are any external relationships that are sort of threatening or damaging your relationship with yourself, now is the time to really, really, really let that go. I love both of you guys so much. So yes, choose your stressors, heal conflicts, review and revisit your relationships. That's going to happen regardless, honey. The last one is going to be that's not the last one. Me not knowing how to count. The next one is going to be to plan, and also live. So obviously, like I said, I don't know if I said these keywords, but like redo, revisit, realize, reassess, reconsider, reconcile, if it, with discernment, reflect, and relationships are really at the forefront of like keywords for this. So through all of this reassessment that we're going to do, we're obviously going to be in a beautiful point where we can plan out like, okay, where do I go from here? Now that I have the knowledge of like what's draining me, what relationships need to go, who I am when I am empowered, who I am when I let these things go, and when I choose to no longer feed this stress or honor this like draining emotional tie that I have with something or someone, and can come back to like what joy and freedom looks like for me, how can I plan accordingly? Mercury retrogrades are so good for planning because you're really being lit up in your mind and you're being able to think. You're not being able to communicate quite clearly, but like your mind is really there. And so it's a beautiful time to really put down on paper, like, who am I when I am taking steps towards my highest potential? But then from that point, not being so attached to that plan to the point where you aren't living. So this is really a good time to find the balance between planning and having that structure, and then like living and letting life move you as well. And that is so confusing. And I immediately realized how confusing that is. And I want to say that I'm sorry, but if you can understand what I mean by that, it's essentially like not being so rigid to the point where your plans don't let you move, but also not free falling to the point where you have no ground underneath you. Finding the middle ground between like, I'm going to make a step-by-step plan that's walking towards my highest potential. But within that, I'm going to let life guide me. I'm going to let my body be my compass as well. Okay, good. Thank you for understanding, because I always speak very convoluted. And with this retrograde, I think it's just going to get worse. So excited. Have to or want to? Absolutely, yes. And letting your body be a guide. Figuring out when to act and figuring out when to surrender. Yes. No, let me screenshot that so that I can write that down for myself. Living in the spin, absolutely. And so this Mercury retrograde really wants you, and that comes back to like when we're talking about choosing your stressors, right? Like you can choose what you can control, and make a plan to control that, and then what you cannot control, really being okay with releasing that. So when it comes to like making a plan for what forward looks like for you, where can you leave room for synchronicity, for just where can you leave room for things to happen on their own, and what can you do to take charge and the parts that you can. I'm gonna stop talking about that because I don't think I'm making much sense, but you guys get it. We love that. And the last one is to be honest, and this one feels like more of a warning than it does a step, and that's because of the fact that this is being kicked off, this entire retrograde is being kicked off with Mercury squaring Pluto, and anytime Pluto is playing any kind of role, and also Venus is in Pluto, like, truth is gonna be revealed whether you like it or not. So it's like within your best interest, if you find that like, I need to get out of this thing, I need to pacify this person's feelings, I need to sort of like walk on eggshells and like, kind of throw out a white lie. I don't demonize lying. I think lying is great, but honestly, this is going to be a point, especially because Libra is all about justice, where if you do find yourself fibbing or trying to get by with fibbing, it's really going to come back to bite you a little bit in the ass. So just make sure that in any of these conversations that you're having, particularly these really heart-opening conversations that we're going to have with this like conflict resolution and like relationship review in our life, that you're being as honest as you possibly can, as true to yourself as you possibly can, and not letting yourself be so enveloped in protecting the other person's feelings that you're hurting them by not telling them the truth that they're eventually going to find out, and it's going to be kind of like a worse explosion. So that's just like, I don't know, something important to take away. But otherwise, I also don't want to like be like, this retrograde is scary, because honestly it's not. It's one of the better ones we've had because of the fact that we have Jupiter playing a beautiful role, and in that it kind of means that like there's just a lot of healing that is going to come back from this if we act accordingly. And I'm saying this as someone who is currently not acting accordingly. I'm like, child, I can't say too much because it's the internet, but like the way I'm really not listening to this X part is really, it's laughable. It is. But at least I have the knowledge of what I'm doing, and I know how to navigate it, at least to some degree responsibly. But I say that to say, we're in this together. Also, the normal things that come with Mercury retrogrades, like technology might be annoying, transportation might be annoying. So just like kind of leave with enough time, leave with more time than you typically would. And yeah, just like put in to perspective the fact that like some things may be misconstrued, miscommunicated, delays, technology may not be your bestie, and also words are not flowing as easily as you can see. But otherwise, I love you guys so much, and I hope that you're well. Michelle, I'm gonna text you. All of you guys, honestly, I just love you so much. And yeah, find your peace and anchor yourself in it. And this will, like I said, be from the 27th, which is tomorrow, until October 18th. So that's some time. We're looking forward to 2022 is all I can really say. Anyway, love you guys, and I'll see you next time. And yeah, bye.